Welcome to Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds. I am Nerder Doug, and tonight I am hanging out with this nerd.
Nerdarchist Ted. How are you doing this fine and lovely evening, sir?
There was a pause. I was expecting you to ask that. Actually, uncharacteristically, it's Monday's off to a stressful start, but that's all melted away now that we are hanging out in Nerdarchy land with whoever is in the chat.
We had quite a rough day in the household ourselves. Google was, down for a large percentage of the world, which stopped either of my kids from being able to get into their classroom. Then we had a major panic attack when the smallest of the three snakes was put in a feeding cage and got out. So that was, like I said, a major panic attack this morning to have to deal with. But, he has been, he was quickly found without the headache I thought it was going to be.
Oh, that's good.
He is safe. He has returned to his cage. Kids were able to get into their, Google classrooms on time, and we continued on with our dreary day.
Cool. Mine was sort of sprinkled out throughout the day, so it was just like one thing after the other.
I was like basically 7:30 and 10:30 that I got, hit with these issues. So I was like, oh, and I didn't sleep all last night. I just couldn't fall asleep. So I was like,
I fell asleep watching Mandalorian.
Nice.
I gave in and got a Disney Plus subscription and was catching up on that. So
well, there's plenty of awesome stuff on Disney. I'm guessing you got that in some kind of shop.
Yes, an online shop, an app store. Which, yes, is the topic for tonight's, is Ted segued into that. Shops, a pretty broad topic.
So
a verb and a noun.
Yeah, when I look at, this concept, I feel like there's a lot of people in the hobby that have strong feelings one way or the other about, the topic of shops and shopping episodes. Especially like, when some people look at what's done on streams and want to try to replicate some of that stuff, and like you'll see it's like, oh well, you get right into a game and it's like, forget the plot. I want to go see what this dude's got for sale, and it can easily spend hours looking over little tidbits, little knickknacks and things. It's like, is this really what you're playing D&D for?
It's interesting when I I'm in the moment and those sorts of things are happening, and not just shops, but it's a good example of it. Like sometimes, I've just kind of learned to just straight up ask the players, like, well, is there anything you want to get out of this other than getting stuff? Or, with a lot of situations in role-playing games, it's like, well, unless there's anything you want to do, like you can wake up the next morning at the end, you don't have to like play every second up until like they fall asleep, and you just kind of fast forwarding. And shopping can be like that too. Sometimes it's like, what do you want to go to this place because it's a place you've been before and you like the NPC, or you want to see what new things they have, or you just want to get some particular gear for like because you're going in the cold weather or the mountain climbing or whatever.
So typically, when I look at these setups, it's a process where, like, if you're trying to get something that's out of the player's handbook, I don't want to role play that. Like there's the cost, and unless there is for some reason a higher price, because it's rarer in this location or what have you, like I'll just tell people this is the cost. It's whatever, just deduct it from your sheet, add the item, and move on. But as you said, sometimes it's about, that reoccurring NPC that they're building a relationship with. Those are the kind of things that I look at and I'm like, this is great because that becomes a plot element. I don't want to be the evil DM over here. But anytime players get an attachment towards an NPC, well, that's somebody that you can kind of like, put the thumb screws in and be able to have them, kidnapped, actually be the bad guy, or be involved somehow.
Oh yeah. And it doesn't have to be in a dangerous way either. It's like they're a source of information. They can if it's like a alchemist or somebody with specialized knowledge of any kind. They might, bring things to that person that might have value or that they don't know what they are, or they could want something from that person that can give them a quest to go get that for them because they don't have it in the shop. And, yeah, it's a good, they're useful for a lot of different things, especially like in a location where they're going to revisit, if you're just like nomadic adventurers who never are back in the same place twice, then. But that could be interesting too, see what new. I mean, when I go on vacation or travel, I like to go in shops and poke around and see what's there, right?
Absolutely. I'm
introduce all kind of new plots just from things on the shelf or just things that they sound interesting for them to want to pick up and look at.
Oh, completely. Whether it be, on vacation or just, going to a new store, or, actually, playing RPGs. I like doing some of that stuff. I like interacting with the shopkeepers in game. And, this is where like, fancy trinket tables and all of that fun stuff, really come in handy. And there are plenty of resources that are out there. I've shown, the book of random tables. They've got numerous like trinkets and items in the shops in a variety of those books. And I've got this book, Remarkable Shops and Their Wares, by the people over at Loresmith. And like it's set up to be pseudo system agnostic with the stuff that's in here. Like when you look at it, like there are like shops that are set up already, Thunderspire Forge and the Bazaar of Marcoon, the Old Mill, the Undersea Archive, Grim and Son's Tinkerlings, and it goes on and on and on. It's got a section for bringing your shops to life, shopkeepers' influence, remarkable wares, creating your own shop, creating custom staff, and it's just lots of tables and really good information. Picking up a resource like this.
Yeah, they have that over at Nord Games. You're good friends and partners of ours.
Yeah, I think Loresmith is partners with them.
Yeah, they have it in their store there. Yeah. The flip side of that, I was thinking as you were saying, which those are all interesting, but just as often, whether it's a shop or a tavern or any place people might go, I like to sort of relate it to, our own real life in the sense that like, well, sometimes you're looking for cool things. Sometimes it's just some boring store with some teenager working there that's not very attentive or doesn't, is not going to be impressed by your cool armor. They'd probably just think you're like lame old people or whatever, right? It's like, I mean, there's still a mundane world in these fantasy worlds of people that's like, it's just their job. They just sell, maybe they sell tchotchkes, like memorable, commemorative, like, carved driftwood sculptures, with their town name painted on it. Because like, yeah, it's by a beach. A lot of people come by. Doesn't have to be magical or anything. It could just be like 2 copper piece little tchotchkes and you can remember everything.
But on the other side of it, like, the random shops are the places that as a GM, you can put, fun or interesting items, into the world that, you might not have expected. We've created a lot of, unique and interesting magic items on, on the website and in our products. We've created a number of different, trinket tables and that kind of stuff. But like, there's nothing to say that you couldn't have an item that was, if you want to use the word pawned or sold to a trinket shop where they honestly, they don't have the ability to detect magic and identify, like that stuff's expensive to, even a shopkeeper. So imagine if like, the player just finds something interesting. Maybe they've got it on them for a number of sessions. And it's only when they happen to have it out when someone casts a detect magic. And it's like, oh yeah, that item you've got, that radiates too. Like, oh, wait a second, what does that mean? And it could be related to a story. It could just be a fun item that you wanted to give that player. It's not specifically relegated to shops, but like you can do that kind of stuff all the time. I told a story many years ago, my character in third edition who fought with a double sword, we had essentially a magic double sword on our party list for like numerous sessions before we even realized what it was. So like you could do the same thing in this kind of game.
Yeah, it's funny. We're kind of like approaching it from both sides. You're really like intrigued by like that injection of like the mystical or magical stuff, and like I'm just captivated by like they're just normal stores, and it's like and you played with me a lot. I like that part of role playing games, like the mundane world. It's like there's all this fantastical stuff, but it's like people still do regular stuff, like have probably like foot traffic in a busy city of their commute in the morning, and also just the fact that like often when you're in small villages and stuff, the things adventurers like wear and bring to these shops and stuff, they might not even have enough money to even be like it's worth more than the store. Like how many times do you find like a pouch full of like, yeah, there's 12 gems worth 50 gold each. It's like that's a lot of money. To like a frontier village, it's like, what do you want to buy the whole village, or is that what like there's not even that much money, gold pieces in the whole town.
Yeah, they would have no use for that bag of gemstones. Like
maybe, they could parlay that into, maybe they could entice contractors to build roads to their town, or like I said, like that whole mundane world, not as populated and high tech as ours, but it's basically like winning the lottery for your town. You upgrade all the houses, maybe build a wall, pay to get the guy to change shirt so he doesn't just have a leather jerkin when he's walking around at night.
That's one of the fun things that you can do with those small villages is kind of enter that that video game aspect of like, okay, can we build this town over the course of playing this game?
That's kind of makes me think of like, down to more specific, and I'm sure you probably have done this as a player and had players, and I know I have, where they run their own shop, and it's like, well, it's a good place to keep abreast of what's going on. Not that they worked there, heck, in Dragon Heist, that's like part of the campaign is like getting your own. But you just can kind of do what you want with it, but a lot of people turn it to like an inn, or
I
certainly did.
I've actually just started watching a stream that's using the Waterdeep Dragon Heist.
Oh, okay.
And I'm only a few episodes in, so we'll see how well that goes.
Have you ever had any characters of your own, or been in a party, or been the DM for people that opened any kind of like business shop?
In my Gryffindor game, the Curse of Narcitus, Ryan's character was Lennon Hemsworthy, and he had a tailor shop.
That's right.
It wasn't worthy unless it was Hemsworthy.
That's fun. That kind of stuff's fun. And if you want to get into like hardcore bookkeeping, I'm sure you could do like downtime or come up with some mechanics, but it also could just be like a fun role-playing thing, And to your point about like having the NPCs who work at shops be in danger when it's your own business, it's like, hey, you're away all the time. Maybe you don't notice somebody's horning in on your business, or there's been thefts at your store, or all sorts of things that can draw characters in different directions.
Yeah, I actually.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, so I actually in that particular game, I actually did bring in a rival. Who was trying to undermine the Hemsworthy line.
You've got to. What was their name?
So I did I don't remember exactly what the character's name was.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe it was like a similar pun.
No, it was actually like a name similar to Mr. McPixelix. I did something. Yeah, something like that. And he was like a real fae, so he was literally sewing magic into his garments.
Oh, that's cool.
So like people could get color changing fabrics, and
major competition.
Yes. So like it became an issue of like, all right, well, you can get serious quality over here at Ryan's shop, or you could get magic over here. Which one do you want to do? So
in our Spelljammer campaign, it was pretty silly. I mean, that's just, again, you play with me. I like a bit of silliness. So one of the random things on this huge list of like random stuff that they can encounter in space was a planetoid made out of bubbling cheese and pepperoni. It was created by a entity named Pizza Skull, which is a skull made out of pizza that can just create pizza materials. It was like, I mean, it was like a 1 in like 500 chance. And I was like, I remember where we were sitting and everything. I was like, okay. And I was like, and I just described it like, they skim over the surface and there's like big bubbles of like this yellow, thick, like oozy substance popping and large, round, like flesh-like, discs floating in it. And like, it took them a little bit. And they're like, is this a planet made of pizza? But anyways, so they made friends with Pizza Skull, who had a long history as well. But he was happy to leave there. They took him back to and he opened a shop for them called I think it was just called Pizza Skull Pizzas. But then I gave them a little competition with the No Calzone Zone, which opened across the street. So you get guilt-free, calorie-free calzones.
I don't understand how you can have a calorie-free calzone.
Magic. How could you have a skull made out of pizza? Right?
Understood.
So yeah, that was actually their first big job after leaving behind the traditional D&D fantasy adventures that we had started with, was to basically like clear out this old disused space dock. And then they made a deal with like a beholder who was like a lounge singer / real estate agent. I told you it was pretty weird, but to like have some financial interest there, and they built offices. It was a long campaign, but yeah, they loved. I've talked about my players in that group a lot. They love having like commerce and shops and just doing business and making marketing for their Pizza Skull pizzas and all that kind of stuff. It was a lot of fun. One thing I thought of before we started talking, and it's funny, you and me always bring up Critical Role because we both like it. But one specific thing I liked that he did one time was they were at some store and somebody that had commissioned something never came and got it. And they got that. And that was like, I thought that was a great idea for a campaign because it's like, just that comes with the whole story. Whose was it? Why were they getting this thing? What happened to them? And, just all those opportunities. And the shop's just literally stacked with opportunities to engage players and give them ideas for things they want their characters to do. And that's where the juice is, baby.
So I was actually going to bring that up myself.
Okay. Do you remember that one? I don't remember.
I don't remember the specifics of it. Was that the Ring of Fire Resistance?
Was it? Oh yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
But it was a scenario, regardless of what happened in Critical Role. Mm-hmm. Honestly, if you have a vendor who deals in custom-made things or potentially does, it's a fun idea to be able to have that. Hey, the person hasn't claimed, so they might be able to get something for cheaper than what it would normally cost. Mm-hmm. Because it's commissioned. And how much of that story are the characters willing to pursue? As you brought up, who is that other person? Are they going to come looking for it? If they do, what happens? Do we have somebody who's a a zealot? That's mine. I commissioned it, and they're willing to come at it with force? Or is it a more, laissez-faire type character that, could wind up becoming their own, sort of quest giver mm-hmm. of like, hey, you won out. I screwed the pooch. I didn't fulfill my contract. That's on me.
Or even maybe they, maybe they needed it for like a real important reason, and they just for whatever reason weren't able to come back. So maybe, the characters could help them, they could be a more sympathetic thing too, where it's like, oh man, like they legit owned it, this guy's not trying to get it back, but, just they needed it for some reason, like to help somebody else.
I needed the ring of fire resistance because I needed to pass through this area where it's really hot. Yeah. It might not even be like like constant damage, but like fire resistance negates exhaustion going through hot climate.
Right. And the people in the world don't know like the mechanical properties. They're like, well, I know I was going to be dealing with fire, so I got a ring that's magic against fire. It's like they don't know, like, well, it doesn't technically, it only halves the damage or whatever. You know what I mean? It's like to them, it's just like it's a magic ring that protects me from fire. So that's what I mean.
So like so you could take that and twist it in any number of conceivable directions, and I think having those elements out there in your game for the characters who do want to go and do the shopping aspects. It adds a layer to the game to, again, bringing back to what you say, it makes it more real. It shows that there is a constant evolving thing going on when the characters are off doing something else.
And it's a good illustration of like, sometimes it's equally or more important, I think, at least at this point in my gaming life, that like when you're a GM, it's like, I think it's better to have an idea of like those kind of things, like what's in the world, who lives there, than to have like a strong adventure plot, right? Like a lot, like in our Tuesday night games, I just, when we started, it's like, oh boy, I had my GM anxiety and stuff, but just from like playing with you guys specifically in that game, it's like, well, sometimes it's fun to just like tell players, like, give them, when you want to start a new campaign, just describe like the setting and see like what they want to do, like not what kind of characters, or even to say like, well, okay, well, I'm gonna have an undead lord, that's the main villain, but other than that, it's sandboxy. It's like, well, you're still putting that thought in their head. Whereas like, even in the context of like the published adventures, like there's a lot of shit going on in these fantasy worlds, like big old plots. So it's like, somebody, if they're not interested in like the big, huge save the world thing, somebody will take care of it. So sometimes it's fun to just adventure around and go to shops and like to your point earlier about like people not liking shopping episodes. It's like, well, if you take an interest in it and show some engagement, it might be a lot more than just going and spending gold and buying like 50 feet of rope and all that. I mean, you might see something cool or find a new quest or as a DM, I mean, it's a great place to sprinkle in things from personal quests of things they're looking for. Imagine if you're looking for like a lost, family member or something, and you're at like a pawn shop. Maybe there's a crest of your family, like a ring or a signet ring or something. It just in with a bunch of other rings, or
a ring, a sash, a tabard,
something distinctive that they would know.
A belt buckle that your father always wore that had a scratch in a specific location, and you saw that so many times. This is clearly theirs. All right, now there's a story here. So like, it's very easy to make those jumps and make those ties, in those in those shops, in those locations. I'm gonna segue off topic for just a moment.
We're really rolling along. Wow.
Our viewers might be wondering why I'm wearing a weird elf hat this evening, but it is the holiday season, and because I was not here last week, it is the first Monday of the month that I'm on stream, and I have the list of stuff to talk about. We have the announcement for the giveaway for the month, which I've already emailed the winner, waiting for a reply. It is my month to run a fan game for you lovely people, and again, I'll be reading those names off a little bit later today. I've already sent those out, so if your name happens to be on the list, make sure you check your email, because I sent it, and it's always the first 5 get in, so usually got to respond quick. And then also, it is December, so we announce to kind of go along with the holiday season. Doug has probably shared it out on social media, but if you haven't seen it, this is the announcement where we give away a big boatload prize, what have you. So now's the time to get in. If you support us on Patreon or send in that form to our PO box. But I've got a stack here. It's actually in two piles because it's so much, but it's hundreds of dollars worth of stuff that we'll be giving away next month. And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
Oh, I thought you were showing off the stuff. Sorry.
No. I'm just teasing it out now. We'll revisit that in a little bit. So, like, do you have a shopkeep or somebody that's an NPC that has been in either a game that you've played or a game that you DM'd that has stood out above everybody else?
Oh yeah, there's a shopkeeper that exists in all my games somewhere for many, many, many years. They actually were a Patreon friend or foe.
Cool.
A couple of years ago, and it's Snylor, who is basically like a young kind of gothy, creep, dark wizard, but it's like he just has the trappings of that, but he's really just like a dork who's into creepy spiders and stuff. But he's varying levels of accomplished, magic stuff. There's a kind of person like, he was in that Spelljammer campaign, for instance, on the Rock of Brawl, and you could bring him like the brains of creatures, and he could make potions of, related to them mind control or protection against those sorts of things by like different organs, and commission stuff. And the store's called Lost and Bound because originally he was like the third edition era. He was like a conjurer who would like bind demons and imps and things, to like just do. He's an occultist basically, and yeah, he's always somewhere. Whether it's my usual setting or whatever game we're playing. When I need a shopkeep and out on the fly, it's Snylor.
Nice.
Yeah. So, and it's a great place, like, to all those things we spoke about, like just tons of different stuff on the shelves all the time, coming and going. And, you can always get a little bit of comic relief when they're just like, something's going on in the back room that they can't see. And you see like a tentacle, like reach out and kick it back or whatever, because he's just got his little storefront. But really, he's just like a dorky, dark wizard that's just wears the dark robes, but he's just a dork who's into magic and alchemy and all that kind of stuff, and runs a shop.
Yeah, I don't know if I have a favorite shopkeep NPC, but I definitely, you're always going to have, favorite NPCs that you
sure.
And a lot of times I come up with, characters that are on the fly and hope that I take good enough notes for next time, depending upon, which game I'm running. I'm super.
Yeah, no doubt, man. You run so many games. You're probably like, oh, that was not even in this campaign, or
yeah, it happens that way sometimes.
Sure.
But like I created, and I guess I could kind of talk about this again next week. Teaser. But I made this location that was like supposed to be like the central point of my current campaign, because it actually is like a planar vortex. It's got shops and stuff in it, but it also has the ability to take you to different parts of the world. And if you've got the coin to be able to get in and happen to know where the doorways are, you can be able to step in and walk 10 feet, walk into another portal.
Ooh, that's very cool. So really unique shop.
Yeah. And then be on the other side of the world.
That's awesome.
It's definitely a fun thing, and it's one of the things. It's the Harp and Stag Inn.
Okay. There's a similar thing in the Dungeons and Dragons Online MMO. You can only get there by teleporting. and it's called the Portable Hole, and it's like just an extra dimensional shop that, like, they sell scrolls and stuff like that, and it just has like teleporters to different places.
Oh, that's that reminds me.
That's a great name for for like a mage, special shop. It's like you can only get there by teleporting.
No, I think Nate did it right, and what you brought up was fabulous. He made a character, and he had a portable hole.
Okay.
And inside the portable hole was the shop.
Oh, that's awesome.
And he had,
so you can do like a pop-up shop literally anywhere. Like,
so he created the the character to have as many tool proficiencies as he could. This was before Artificer became a thing.
Yeah.
And took levels in Wizard to get Fabricate.
Okay.
So the shop was called a hole in the wall. Because he could literally walk up to any building, open up his portable hole up against a building, and walk in and just be like, "Oh, you need something? I cast Fabricate," and he'd have all the supplies that he needs there. He doesn't need to carry, so it's just boom, here you go. I made the thing for you. So that dude, that character is powerful. Strong enough wizard to be able to cast Fabricate, as well as some other things, possess all of these different tools and the portable hole itself.
I was looking up to see if that was one of the things you could make as an replicate as an artificer, but it is not.
Yeah, I didn't think that one was up there, because that's a little bit better than a bag of holding.
What's the difference between a bag of holding and a handy haversack? Just how much it can hold, basically.
So the Heward's handy haversack has 3 compartments, and each of them are smaller bags of holding. The bag of holding has a larger capacity, all told, than the haversack, I believe.
Mm.
And then it's not limited to 3 smaller portions.
Right.
Although I will say most DMs that I've seen and played with, they treat the bag of holding as this limitless space that you could put anything you want in, and all you have to do is get a portion of it in and have the intention of you want it in there, and it's in there.
Well, that actually makes more sense to me than not adding that step in, where it just like senses, because it's like we can be like, well, we'll just put the body in there or whatever. It's like it only opens like this much, man. Like, unless you want to do the gruesome task of like dismembering, or it's like that stuff is so common in adventures, and it always just grosses me out. It's just like, oh god, like who would want to do that? Like, yeah, we'll just chop the thing up, or it's like, oh, we'll just cut the heads off and take those. And I was like, man, just
that is.
No judgment. I'm just saying, to me, it's like,
I've definitely taken part in my fair share of gruesomeness as a D&D player. I don't know what it is about me as a player, collecting trophies, but I like claws and teeth and that kind of stuff, and I think that's a kind of a cool thing. But not everybody is really interested, to go to that kind of, levels of mutilation. And I mean, again, you see it all the time of like, oh, we'll just cut them up and put them in the bag. And I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like, these are the heroes.
Somebody had written to Nerdarchy a month or two ago, asking about like playing a character like that. And I pointed him towards the Frost Rider Ranger from Treasures of the Tundra, which is totally that. It's like you can make basically like a claw, a fang, or a talon totem, and it like gives you different powers and stuff. And they had a great time playing him. The reason I asked about the haversacks, because my Sunday game that I run for my brother and his friend and this other friend of mine, that was part of their treasure that they got last time. And I just didn't look it up, but I was like, no, it's kind of like a bag of holding-ish. But I was just throwing out of the boxes at them as they came up on them, and cobbling them together. And it's pretty neat, because I sort of like, for some reason, I got to be like, I want to do something with like Vecna and stuff. So I started, I kind of adapted a little bit, like the one Encounter Touch of Gray with the white that has the dagger in its head, and all the zombies around had like tabards with like the hand and the eye on it and stuff. And like, I don't think anybody knew what it was except my brother, who hasn't like played or done any D&D stuff in probably like 20 years. So like, it was kind of, cool for him, because he had asked me to play. And I was like, I'm gonna throw some old school shit in there.
Nice.
It was like, oh man, like, yeah, he was all creeped out.
Nobody
pulled the dagger out of the head. I was like, damn.
I too ran a game this weekend, and I too, reached into Nerdarchy's collective of products and used that for my players. In fact, I used the Vargarian collective, which was definitely a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
It got to put Dave's character, or Dave, on the other side of the screen with Vargarians.
Oh, nice.
Usually it's Dave who's the one who's playing them, and you
guys never got to have a satisfying confrontation against them either.
But I have a character who is a tinkerer who wants to go and get into more construct type stuff, and there's definitely a big jump from tinker's tools to making essentially a golem. We have they found a very bizarre item a long time ago. Some of the characters in the current game are like have carried over from the last game,
legacy characters.
So yes, basically. So they've got Bernie, the goblin head, who is a focus. You can actually hold him by his top knot and present him when you cast a spell, and he counts as a an arcane focus.
Mm-hmm.
But he's also got the ability to cast magic himself. It's not all that great, but it requires a persuasion roll to make it happen. Well, the character who's had Bernie for a while has decided he wants to make Bernie a golem body. And it was like a shrunken head. So like the eyes were initially stitched closed, but he still had the ability to sense and perceive things. Well, they've cut one of the slits open and somehow given him a magic eye. So now he's got one eye closed and the other eye open. So like there is talk about, this dude is going to wind up creating a body, and this dude is going to be like a major foe that they're going to have to contend with later.
You could use the homunculus thing from the Artificer, maybe. It seems like it would be somewhere between a gal, it's like an alchemical body, basically. That might be kind of neat.
There's definitely a lot of directions, and it's completely up to the character.
Yeah.
He asked for stuff. And since I'm going on a more sci-fi-ish angle of fantasy with some of the stuff that I'm doing, there's definitely some Cthulhian type stuff going on. Space travel monsters. I'm like, well, I don't think Vargarians are too far off the mark from what's going on. So I'm like, you know what? I got a perfect place to plop this stuff in.
Man, nothing's off limits if it comes out cool and fun for the group. You know what I mean?
But the Dungeons and Lasers did a Kickstarter a while back. They had partnered with us or sponsored a handful.
Was that like terrain stuff?
Yeah. Well, their mascot is Lord Bulbo. I'm gonna step off camera for a second.
Okay, sure.
But he's this almost beholder-esque kind of thing. The group was calling him a chicken walker because he's got like the two legs. But I used this guy as a kind of Vargarian thing. It was a mix between bionic or a organic component and machinery stuff. So I'm like, all right, I've got this figure. He looks pretty cool. I did an okay paint job on it. Where am I going to squeeze him in? So as I start combining all of these ideas in my head of like, all right, well, maybe he'll fit in with the Vargarians. I think that would work well. So I'm like, all right, fine. So I came up with this thing. It was definitely a lot of fun to use his line attacks. It was like this central beam fired down this 60-foot corridor, hitting multiple players.
Oh, go ahead. And
I had a lot of fun with it, and had he decided to stay, and like from the get-go, I had known that he was retreating through the portal, so that he could harass them later when they're higher level. Had he stayed, I could have definitely annihilated several characters.
Oh yeah, well, you always can. You're the GM, right? So it's funny. On Saturday, I was talking with this friend of mine I played D&D with. He was in that Spelljammer game just a ton. He started playing with my brother and I, and he was just talking about, because he's never GM'd, and he was just talking about like these games, and he's like, oh man, it's so much fun. It's like, I love when we like, figure something out or find something that, later on becomes something else. And I was like, man, I just make all that stuff up, like, as we go. He's like, really? Like, I was like, yeah, a lot of DMing is just rolling with what the players do. And I was like, and this was, we play on Sundays. So I was like, after the game, I'll show you my notes and you can see how much, and like my notes was a bullet point that said Marenoloth. That's it. And then it was like, if they mess with it, go use this thing, but it'll just take them to basically one of the out of the box encounters. And then I use those magic mushrooms. Because there's like all this bioluminescent fungus growth, and they were interested in that. And they wanted to take a sampling and try them. And I was like, sweet, they just as in Tasha's. So I had the character, them rolling the chart, and they had the effect of detect thoughts on them for like 10 minutes or something. And I was just like, yeah, all of a sudden I was like, you start just hearing, other voices in your head. And he's like, what are they saying? I said, I don't know. And I just asked the other two players, I'm like, what are you guys thinking about right now? Like, cause it's just their surface thoughts. And so they said, and I was like, that's what you hear.
Christopher's got a good comment here. So the thing about making an NPC who was a construct maker, he would just make low CR constructs similar to a necromancer. With the homunculus, the iron defenders,
even the rock gnome has the little. The race you can. Right. It has like stats, and plushies of thunderous power.
I was thinking about that one as well.
Sorry, didn't mean to.
No, dude.
I thought of it as I was saying.
But then you can also go with like your monodrome and duodrone. Lower tier of those guys. Even if you're not attributing them to what they are, those stat blocks still are constructs that you would be able to use and build off of.
You could use sidekick thing. Sidekick if it was like, one they particularly liked or whatever. And, actually that saying that reminded me of something you said earlier about like shopkeepers and just never, a lot of times you make them up on the fly or like trying to think of things that players would like. And I always think that's like the weirdest question that people ask about RPGs. Like, well, how do you make like, NPCs the players like? It's like, man, they'll tell you they like them. Like it's just a shotgun. Like you could, craft all this backstory. It's like they're just gonna like the shopkeeper with the funny name or that sassed them or whatever. It's like
throwing any wall. Something's gonna stick eventually.
yeah, right. Like you're better off just like let so many people having a few names and maybe a few interesting details come up. But yeah, I like this construct maker. That seems like a pretty interesting, memorable shop to have like in a town, whether they're traveling or whatever.
Christopher, I'm totally stealing it. Sorry, I'm saying it here, but I'm gonna formulate that dude, and I'm gonna go and look up in D&D Beyond to see how many constructs they have that are challenge 2 or under in their stat blocks to be able to play with. But we are at about 15 minutes left.
Wow,
so
geez.
I'm gonna dive into the material that I have here.
Sure.
So we announced previously, last month what our giveaway was. We have a copy of the No Prep Game Master by Dice Geeks. This is the guy who writes, the random roll books, random roll table books. We actually had him on the live chat. That was a pretty cool one. From Nord Games, The Ultimate Bestiary. It's a great book. We're really, good friends with them. And a copy of Rime of the Frost Maiden, which be warned, there's some serious danger in this book. Characters can die if they make the wrong decision, as I have already nearly experienced. So that is going to Elizabeth Fields. So I have contacted you. If that is your name, check your email. It went out earlier today. So yeah.
Oh, that was just a regular giveaway.
This is the giveaway that was announced last month. That this is what is getting shipped.
Oh, okay.
To
gotcha.
Elizabeth.
Right.
As I stated, this is my month to game. I'll be running an off air, like a game through Zoom. We're not going to stream it on December 27th at 2 p.m. as long as whatever Sunday that is. But the list is
last Sunday of the month.
Yeah, last Sunday of the month.
Yeah, 27th. Yep.
So we've got Crocus, Kara, John Robinson, Justin Melder, Wesley Ditch Newman, Stefan Backup, Mike Deline, Danilo Mindnick, Connor Tuttle, and Daniel. So a lot of just single names. And if you're any of these people and I mispronounced your name, I do apologize. Just chalk it up to Ted can't read. I mean no offense in any way, shape, or form. All right, so now comes the workout. The mega giveaway that we do once a year. It's a pile. There's a handful of little tchotchke things that I'm not even gonna go through.
Oh, like all those decks.
No. I'll go through the decks, but there's
just like a little extra goodies you're throwing. Stocking stuffers.
There's extra cards that go with the decks. There's a cool pin that's here. But a lot
of cool stuff winds up in these end of the year ones.
The amount of stuff that's in the giveaway pile, it's kind of crazy, and I realize that there's more than what is actually over here because it kind of spreads that way. So if I wind up sending more stuff than what's listed here, I might just see what the box is and then throw some extra stuff in it as well. But
I don't think anybody would mind.
From our friends over at Hit Point Press, the Deck of Many, we have got 7 of their decks. So the Deck of Monsters 1, 2, and 3. These are awesome. The Deck of Many Things, the Deck of Many Weapons, the Deck of NPCs, and the Deck of Many Conditions. These have an MSRP of $10 to $15 by themselves. So each. Yeah. So this alone is about $100. And we're just starting. From the best dice company that's out there, Easy Roller Dice. It's a set of metal dice, gunmetal with green inking. These are absolutely fabulous. Lots of fun. If I'm mentioning Easy Roller Dice, I might as well, give the whole pile that Easy Roller Dice has provided. We've got a dice tray. It's a very cool dragon design on there. It's a leather dice tray. It's got the divider there, so you've got a space around the outside to store all your dice and get a place in the middle to still roll your dice. Easy Roller Dice for all of your dice rolling needs. I gotta say it because they're awesome. From our friends at WizKids, an unpainted Gargantuan Red Dragon. I've already got one. I've painted it up on a different color scheme.
Oh, you painted it already?
Well, mine is over here.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, he's got a.
That looks cool, man.
He's got a very red and black and a coral undertone, and then all of his spikies are super coral.
That looks like a great job.
Oh, thank you. So I don't use dragons super often. So this actually came from my pile of stuff. I don't need a second one of these dragons.
Or do you?
Not anymore. This one's going to somebody else.
Ooh, that would be a pretty brutal battle.
another copy of the No Prep Game Master.
Good stuff.
We have got, let's hold up the 2 Sword and Wizardry books from the wonderful people over at Frog God, the Sword and Wizardry and the Borderland Provinces. So you can steal the lore and use these for 5th edition, or just learn to play the cool game of Swords and Wizardry. It's definitely a lot of fun from all I've heard. I've not had a chance to play it yet. From our fine friends over at 2C Gaming, we've got the Total Party Kill Handbook. Definitely a lot of fun things to threaten and challenge your players with.
Oh, that's a lot bigger than I thought. That's for like the super high level play, right?
That's not their that's not their 20th level game.
Oh.
This is ready to run encounters, traps, and challenges.
Yeah, it's a nice
Dungeon Masters rejoice and players beware. The Total Party Kill Handbook is here to help you take your game to the next level of challenge and fun with 25 encounters running from level 1 to 20, all designed to be dropped into existing campaign. Every encounter can be scaled up or down to fit groups that are several levels higher or lower, and the tactic scaling section lets you make the monsters smarter or dumber to further tweak the difficulty to match your party. Within the pages, you also find the Trap Workshop, a revolutionary trap creation system that will let you build traps that damage, disable, and debilitate adventurers, making your dungeons even more dangerous. You tell the story. The book provides the numbers.
Wow, that might be the second best book of encounters for 5th edition out there.
So if you need some adventures to be able to put those encounters in, I've got a series of encounter books.
Oh, wow.
So we've got an Assault on Blacktooth Ridge, a Murder Most Foul, and the Marathon of Heroes. So these are, some pretty cool adventure books.
Who are those from?
So this one is Fail Squad Games. This one is Just Says by Christopher Sturts.
Okay.
And this one is Troll Lord Games.
Oh, okay, cool. Sorry, I didn't mean to break up your rhythm.
No worries. I'm down to the last one. The amazing people over at 1985 Games, Dungeon Craft. This is our last copy of, the 2D, battle map pieces, over 1,000 pieces. I use these in my games. I think they're fantastic. They've run a number of Kickstarters that have done really well. It's really great stuff. I haven't met anyone who hasn't gotten this set and been happy with it.
I love that kind of like portable 2D stuff, flat plastic minis, pawns. I mean, it's like, man, just so much easier. Not that we're, most people, we're not going out as much as we can, but still, it's super useful. And yeah, that's Dungeon Craft. There's like just so much stuff in there. You can really make all sorts of different maps and setups and stuff.
All right, I didn't get a hernia lifting the stuff off the table to the floor. I'm good. So easily over $300 worth of stuff there.
Oh yeah.
I didn't do the vain thing of trying to get all of the MSRPs and totaling it up. But somebody could if they wanted. But that's going to get put in a box and mailed out to somebody early next month. Like I said, with the amount of stuff that's here, there's probably going to be some more stuff thrown in just to kind of clear some space in my basement. So yeah.
Yeah, and all our Patreons are automatically entered, right? Or you can go over to the website and download the form and mail in one per month. You can only mail in one a month. It's only good for 1 month. But for just $1 over a Patreon, all those people get in. But I think the $2 or $3 level is where it's at. I've been super excited about the monthly content that we've been making, which I actually asked the question. So technically, for anybody hanging out here, this is our Patreon chat, which we started just doing live this year because of, quarantine, pandemic, and just wanting to hang out with other nerds online. But over on the Patreon, I actually had asked a question about our content and the layout. I don't know I think we had chit-chat about it in Slack and stuff, but one of the guests had mentioned how they are traveling a lot and they use their tablet a lot for digital books, which I do too. And they said so their Kickstarter, they were laying it out and designing it in a landscape format, and I was pretty excited about that. So I just asked our patrons what they thought about us possibly doing that for our monthly rewards, because I myself, I don't print them out. I was looking at them in a landscape format myself, so it made a lot of sense.
I'm a little more old school. I actually have my printed copy of the Margarian Collective over there. I've got my 3-ring binder of most of the Nerdarchy products over here that I took that page out of.
So you print them all up, right?
I have most of them printed out.
I was curious if you've noticed any like things that you liked or didn't like from a print physical standpoint over the years. Because one thing I'm just we're always trying to get better at everything we do. Is just, like with the even though we're not doing it landscape, I try to make like every page is a complete thing. It's like if you're like whether it's like a description of a room or something, it's like it's like it's because I do use digital so much because it is easy and a thing to just flip back and forth. But I like to just see everything I need on one page. So I've been trying to make an effort to do little things like that. I was just curious if you noticed anything.
Yeah,
not that I was fishing for compliments. I was just genuinely curious if that was useful or not.
I definitely enjoy having all the information on one page. And we definitely have had. You definitely see improvement, from my opinion, of the material as we've progressed. Not
fun
only
to make,
not only in the artwork and the quality, but like the design element as well.
Mm-hmm.
We have recently gone into a new design structure for what those rewards are to kind of define what Nerdarchy is and how our content can be used. Which I'm super excited about.
Yeah, me too. I've used some of those things in that new way, and it's like we basically just try more like the out of the box. Which I gotta say, I mean, man, that's pretty much just the kind of games I run anymore. I just find a couple of, like when I say encounter, it's like a room, or whatever, and it's like when you build out what that room like that, like I was just saying, like well, there's fun guy in the room and. I don't know if there's there's some stuff about like it makes difficult terrain in the encounter, but it's like maybe they do have some effect too. And it's like that took them, an hour and a half to just go through the room because like they're looking at mushrooms, they're creeping down the hall, there's no light, just all that stuff. It's like, when you only play for 2 or 3 hours, man, like if we were going to play, Rime of the Frostman, that would take like years to finish that, right?
Well, that was one
Which
of
would be great. I mean, it'd be worth the money out,
completely. I mean, that's one of the things that, has been interesting with the Thursday night group of
that's a fun group
on Mini Terrain Domains channel. Like we have run Forge of Fury that was the campaign that I started.
It was adapted. I mean, that's a big ass adventure, man.
Yeah, yes. We did Ghost of Saltmarsh, but we did not do the full book. Like we did a snippet of it. He ran us through, Heart of the Nightfang Spire, which I actually, after that campaign was over, just because I went through it, I went and bought, the previous edition.
I do that stuff.
Just to be able to put it on the shelf, but I did that.
Yeah.
And then we're in Rime of Frostmaiden now. We've technically only had one episode of it. As we've been playing a side story now that M has returned. We've got Fig back, so we're finding out where he was, which has been a blast. And it's actually made me fall in love with a new magic item, Bag of Tricks.
Oh yeah, oh boy, you already were pretty enthused about that from a couple months ago.
Well, I have one in that game. I've got a tan bag in that one, and like my we're all Warforged, clockwork people, if you will, and.
I can't believe there's not a clockwork soul, man.
I'm sorry, we already had an arcane caster in the party.
Sure. I wasn't criticized. I just thought it was funny. Real quick to tie back to shops and relevant to what you're saying there and about long adventures and stuff too. I'm glad that's one thing I've learned to let go as a GM over the years is like, hey, like sometimes you'd get stressed out, like if you're running a published adventure or your own and had like, this layout and the characters spend a lot of time at a shop, they do a shopping episode. Yeah, you're missing like this stuff, or like we're not doing the thing that we were, that was planned. It's like, you just go with it, man. Because that, like, say you're playing Rhyme the Frostman, you end up spending a whole episode at one of the shops of 10 towns and stuff. It's like, but there's all this other stuff. It's like, but that's what happened, that's part of the story too, and that can be fun. And I think as we discussed throughout this thing, it's like you can use those to, move stories forward too with things that's. I mean, a lot of people come and go through shops and items
that is true. And that reminds me of a very interesting shop that I had in my first 5th edition game, The Curse of Narcotis. Okay. They were traveling, like through, this dude's lair, and a door manifested itself, and like they opened the door and they came into I think it was Madam Z's tea shop, and you've got this very fiendish looking woman serving teas, and there were regular teas and there were some not regular teas, but like there was a curtain and you could remove, like, she eventually, after some role playing and them seeing what was going on, like she pulled back the curtain and you could have limbs replaced. You could add on extra limbs, wings, a tail. So like it was total body modification center.
Body shop.
Basically. So like, our quote unquote intern, Nerd Artist Kyle, love to know what happened to him, because he literally vanished at one point in time. Every method I have of communicating, I don't get a response from. So I hope he's okay. But he was a player character in that game for a short time. He was a warlock paladin.
Okay.
So he was a warlock to Narcotis, and then a warlock to try and get away from, and a paladin to get away from Narcotis. So he had a very, very fun arc, but he bought an extra set of arms.
Cool.
So that was definitely a lot of fun. So you can use shops to break the rules. You can use shops to have a lot of fun. So it's just a matter of, what it is that you're looking for, with the actual game.
Yeah, and if you're one of those players that doesn't like going shopping, just try going one time and go all in. See, you never know what you might find in the store.
So, any final words there, Doug?
No, I mean, I've been really liking these chats with these just sort of like broad generic things. They're really evoking a lot of interesting discussions, I think, and I hope anybody watching now or later will have a new appreciation for the shops in their game, whether they are a player or a game master.
Yeah, I think it can be a lot of fun. It's definitely an element that some folk get into, and some people like have a huge passionate dislike for. But as with everything when it comes to role-playing games, you're going to play the game that you want. You're going to play the game as you like it. So with that, until next time, stay nerdy.
Nailed it.